guys, the Indominus Rex.
Today, the Indominus Rex.
Hey, I was telling Gochi, sir. The Indominus Rex is strong, is she? Well, let's see what Peter Jackson's Skull Island can do there.
Today, the Indominus Rex will be resurrected from the dead and be tasked with the most
So how much did you have to pay the devil to get her soul?
dangerous challenge yet. After laying waste to most of the animals in Isla Nublar and proving herself the superior land predator, will she be able to survive one of the most...
I think she could have realistically killed Rexy. I mean, she's an old woman. You know, basically a hag. A hag.
dangerous islands of all time. In this episode, we will follow the Indominus' journey through different terrain and the monsters that hide within. Will she survive, or will she die again? Coming up, Indominus Rex enters Peter Jackson's Skull Island. Yep, that's right. For this episode, we're switching things up a little bit. In the past few episodes following this format, we have focused more on the horrors featured in the MonsterVersus version of Skull Island. Today's Skull Island is arguably scarier. Some of the...
Yeah, I'm not gonna agree with you, Gochi. I watched the 10 worst ways to die, and I'd say those are worse.
creatures are more horrifying, and it just so happens that this island has a better established lore. So, that's...
I almost forgot. Speaking of Peter Jackson's Skin Corner, I got the disc. I got a box. You know, I bought it just for a piece of cardboard. You guys are me. Biggest King Kong collection. Even though it's just flimsy cardboard. That's why I'm not taking the MonsterVersus cardboard off. That said, King Monsters was out in cinema. That's history.
Said, sit back and get comfortable, because there's a lot going on to discuss on this island that may change the outcome of this simulation. And especially...
Really? Listen. Can I call you Mr. Gochi?
special surprise outcome or announcement at the end, so pay close attention. We'll resurrect our Indominus Rex and bring her back to life. Thanks to Beastopia's cutting-edge technology, we'll be able to regenerate...
Okay, I see. Listen, I'm gonna be trivial. There is a really big channel. Every episode's 1 hour called Beastop. Would you guys want me to react to it? It's go to
generate her mutilated corpse and bring her back to the world of the living, keeping all her memories of the past up until this moment. Hopefully she learned a few lessons from her short time period out of her enclosure. Now she'll be sent back in time to Skull Island, the one featured in the film King Kong back in 2005. The year, however...
19 years ago. And this movie's 9 years ago. 1 year later, they're both gonna be... That's gonna be 20 years old, and that's gonna be 10 years old.
Will be 1933, shortly before the arrival of these guys. Very quickly, though, we'll see what this island is up against. Note that during the events of Jurassic World 2015, the Indominus Rex was not fully grown yet, at a little over 40 feet in length. Here on this island, what will serve her well is her high level of intelligence and problem solving. A very lethal bite with a jaw that can open very wide, thick hide, and a skull that can withstand heavy impacts. Stealth-wise, this one is equipped...
You know, my brother famously said, the Indominus Rex is basically just a skull.
With good vision, heat detection, ability to remove her own thermal signature, and blend into its environment using camouflage. A side effect of being this smart is...
Where's her butthole? Where is her butthole?
Curiosity, which of course leads us to the first part of this simulation, the scouting phase. The Indominus Rex, after learning in her previous life that not all animals are harmless hadrosaurs and lesser life forms, she'll likely think twice once she steps onto an island where the soil itself is fertilized by the countless corpses that fall upon it each second. Yeah, a bit of lore for you. This island used to be a lot bigger and is currently sinking, meaning that over time all animals end up living closer together, confrontations more frequent, subsequently instigating an evolutionary arms race that brings forth horrendous life forms, diseases, and death. The air here is stale, not a single life form is safe, and Indominus here is about to find that out. In this scenario, the Indominus was released in the jungles. Now, our Indom does have experience being in a similar environment.
Our main lady, she loves the jungles. She like the rock.
Before, and will know that it's better to see your opponents first before they see you. Here, she'll adjust her body temperature and camouflage into the environment to practically be invisible. The soft pads on her feet, courtesy of the T-Rex DNA, silence her movements slightly, but will this be enough? To our knowledge, there isn't another animal here that will rival the Indominus stealth-wise and size-wise. However, she's not the only ambush specialist here. Some of these do rival the Indominus in
That kind of looks like Doug, right? Just more fugly.
size, which may cause some issues.
Scott, can I fucking swear? Sorry. Listen, if you had to deal with Skurkin falling over, you'd be tired of his shit too.
For instance, there's a particularly vicious predator around here known as Carver or Carocopter interfector. These Gorgonopsid-like butchers are strong and dexterous, meaning that they are really good at using their hands and forelimbs. These aren't as big as our Indominus Rex, measuring at a maximum of 33 feet, but these are usually found in pairs, meaning that these can be a real issue in a two-prong attack. Getting ambushed by these guys is possible thanks to their exceptional sense of smell. However, being practically invisible to the eye and thermal sensors, Indominus may be able to quickly dispatch one of these first, leaving the remaining widow or widower to run and cut its losses. A few feet.
I mean, if Aina can run away from Mama, I think Indominus could run. No?
Dons will certainly attack anything that moves in front of it, but measuring around half of the length of this Indominus means that our Indom doesn't just have the upper hand in size, but also in strength. In the jungle of Skull Island, we do find more animals that are difficult, but not impossible to handle for the Indominus. A quick rundown includes Diablosaurus, the Asperodorsus, a sauropod nowhere near as large as the beast. Against these animals, the Indom resemble creatures that the Indops and Atacorasaurus. All animals that very much resemble creatures that the Indominus Rex would have already faced. Against these animals, the Indom would still put out a win without suffering a fatal injury, but the dense forest would prove too troublesome. Hearing the sounds of larger dinosaurs, the dense but also not impossible to Dorsus, a sauropod nowhere near as large as the larger Apatosaurus, very much resemble Silrodorsus. For the Indominus Skull Island, we do find her hand in size, measuring around a few Phaetodons will certainly attack. Our Indom doesn't just have the upper of it, but its losses. These first, leaving the remaining heat detection, ability to remove her own thermal signature, and blend into its environment using camouflage. A side effect of being this smart is lack of visible animals would likely make it a very to bump into the king of the widower to run and cut its losses. A few Phaetodons will certainly attack anything that moves.
One can have that. These Goji Surfeos are not made for kids. They're gory, they're brutal, and just rare. Just remember that, guys.
Moves in front of it, but measuring around half of the length of this Indominus means that our Indom doesn't just have the upper hand in size, but also in strength. In the jungle of Skull Island, we do find more animals that are difficult, but not impossible to handle for the Indominus. A quick rundown includes Diablosaurus, the Asperodorsus, a sauropod, and Atacorasaurus. All animals that very much resemble creatures that the Indominus Rex would have already faced. Against these animals, the Indom would still put out a win without suffering a fatal injury, but the dense forest would prove too troublesome. Hearing the sounds of larger dinosaurs, something familiar to her, she'd continue to the lowlands, but would have to pass through some other types of terrain first. While the Indom could easily navigate through the jungles and riverways of Skull Island, her size and base template species would compel her to take up territory similar to what T-Rex did. Though she is curious to see what's going on up on the highlands, the troublesome terrain up here wouldn't really be worth the squeeze. The slopes are way too steep to easily navigate, and the lack of appealing prey would make this area more trouble than it's worth. This decision to avoid this area would make it unlikely to bump into the king of the island, for now. nor the threats in the caves like the giant Terrapus Mordax Queen and her flying horde. The smell of rotting flesh might nudge her to a certain type of gorge, but these steep walls of the pit and the lack of visible animals would likely make it a very costly venture to go down. And for this hybrid, but these steep walls of the pit and might even end up saving her life, since a bad fall coupled by getting swarmed by these bugs from hell might be too much for this hybrid. The Indominus does know to avoid unnecessary danger. If we saw the Indom not take the risk to go down this cliff or continue to take damage from an unknown weapon, she's not dumb enough to end up down here anyways. But in an area like this, well... It's about time our Indominus got thirsty. All this moving around and taking on vicious jungle predators in the hot jungle made her search out for a sip of water. Unfortunately for many creatures on this island, going on a water break here marked the end of their miserable lives. There are many creatures living in these waters. Being human-sized meant you had it all the more difficult dealing with detestful flesh-eating neopedes, an entire aquarium catalog of fish from hell, to insane blood-sucking worms capable of draining a human dry. An Indominus, however, would be a bit too large for any of these threats to cause any real trouble. Even the large 20-foot Malamagnus would fall prey to animals like the V-Rex, and add to the fact that these were mostly herbivorous creatures. So, what else could cause trouble to this hybrid who is technically still a noob to Skull Island? Undoubtedly hanging around here too long, and after taking a few sips of water, she'd run into one of her first major obstacles. The Pteranodon, a lethal mouthful of needle-like teeth weighing anywhere between 6 to 14 tons.
Okay, I'm sorry for not talking. I was just trying to work through. You know... Stewie, what are you doing? In a way, well, that's what I love about this movie. It's not just dinosaurs, you know? In a way, it's not just dinosaurs. I think that's based off a fish, I can't remember its name, but that's cool.
With adult females measuring up to 50 feet in length, an aquatic creature again. This is a fish like no other, a literal sea serpent evolved to torment thirsty lesser life forms in the island. And she'll most definitely attack the Indominus if she gets too...
How did Jack Black realistically survive? I'm sorry, but like, he's not... Okay, please don't think I'm body shaming here, but all these buff men died, and this guy... You've seen Jack Black, I'm not gonna say it, but how did he survive Skull Island? Plot convenience, I'm gonna say that.
Close to the rivers or swamps they dwell in. Assuming that this Indominus did get ambushed, her extra thick hide and resistant skull would be able to survive the initial attack, inflicting a very nasty wound if the first strike was at the belly, neck, or leg. If the fight continued in the water, the best bet the Indominus would have would be to use her intelligence to take the fight
Oh no, wait. Does that mean the Indominus Rex is gonna get PTSD?
Where she has the advantage, using her strong arms and legs to shred into the body of the fish and escaping to shallower water. This will secure a win against a fish that is not that much bigger than an Indominus, but this could go completely the other way around if the Indominus caught a beached Pteranodon in the middle of a spa session. Yes, they occasionally beach themselves to rid their bodies of parasites. But with a new predator popping out of nowhere, the much faster and dexterous Indominus would turn the powerful Pteranodon into shredded sashimi.
You know, some animals get their teeth cleaned out, you know. Get some leaves cleaned out, you know, just I guess some of our teeth cleaned out by lesser bugs, like when the Gigan had his teeth cleaned, he had it washed, which... Oh, if the Gigan was so evil, why didn't he carve a bit of the tiny dinosaur's head? Oh wait, he smiled. Oh my god, he smiled, he's so evil, this is the worst villain ever. This is how you write a villain. The Indominus Rex is how you write a villain, boys and girls. She is cruel, mean, and arsehole. I think this is the true way we write a villain here.
The Indominus will likely choose not to stay in this environment. The murky waters and the assurance that taking another sip in this swamp will draw in another sea serpent, she would best leave these waterways as fast as possible and search for easier prey. Indominus Rex so far has the odds in her favor of surviving this place, but she hasn't really had a real challenge yet. As she draws close to the open areas of the lowlands, the Indom will finally have time to rest and recuperate near things that look very familiar. Sauropods, hadrosaurs, ceratopsians, things that are not that dissimilar from those in Isla Nublar. She now has many different potential prey animals to fill her belly, or hunt for sport. These plains have too many animals to discuss one by one, but in this episode we'll talk about the ones that will pose a considerable threat for the Indom, prey and rival predator alike. The Ferucatus. Length 34 feet, height 16, weighing at an estimated maximum of 16 tons. Weapons include powerful jaws, sharp beak, blunt impacts, and numerous frill horns. Need we say more? Skull Island's answer to Triceratops wasn't that much different in size from the Cretaceous ancestor. While its horns were not ideal against theropods such as that of Triceratops, this species could leverage the array of spines that it had on its face and a signature powerful bite Ceratopsians had. The Indominus would have to fight smart to avoid getting gored or overwhelmed by these herding animals. Going for the younger individuals and snagging them would get itself overwhelmed by an army of angry adults. So, using—
Hey, Indominus, why are you eating my kids, man? Why are you eating my kids? I'm gonna kick your ass. Why are you eating my kids, man? I'm gonna kick your ass.
its superior senses and stealth abilities can be enough to take down an adult, still at a considerable risk. Over time, an intelligent creature like the Indom would develop strategies to take these down with less risk every time. But this isn't the only source of food. Better prey does exist. The Ligocristus. These hadrosaurs are very similar to the ones in Isla Sorna in terms of both size and habits. Unlike the ones that existed in the fossil record, these animals are borderline defenseless, and much smaller than the giants like 16-ton Parasaurolophus or the 20-ton Shantungosaurus. Catching up to them will be hard, but she has—
Look in the Jurassic first beat King Kong. I guess I owe some Jurassic Park fans an apology.
shown to be really—
Is the new bar, and is the senior, the other one. I guess almost as hard as Skull Island. I guess the same with the Far Cry 3 Island. But don't diss Skull Island, it's still deadly.
fast when she wants to.
Like, the musical's less deadly, I agree, and the Simpsons one. But still, we're still deadly.
This dinosaur and those other animals as defenseless as this one are the type to be killed for sport, like the case with the Apatosaurus in the Isla Nublar incident.
No creature would do that. I know I'm talking about evilness and all shit, but you know, can I be trivial? You know our actual animals are great on the lab? They do not do this. They live like regular animals. You know one thing? Technically, you were made in a lab. When you were born, they, cut your cord, checked your breathing, pull that shit inside you when you were a baby. Wait, I don't see you killing everything. Well, sure, Hunter, I guess, fuck you, but also thank you, because, I don't agree with hunting, but, kind of fun, huh?
Their Skull Island counterparts are a different
I
story.
don't hate hunters, and I don't justify hunting. I just think, if you're gonna hunt. Don't be like the Indominus Rex, be more like Rexy.
Brontosaurus, length 80 to 120 feet, height 40, estimated weight 70 to 90 tons. Weapons, huge size, crushing tail, trampling, and herding behavior. While the Indom utterly slaughtered many of the sauropods in Jurassic World, Brontosaurus Baxteri from Skull Island tips the scales with their behavior and sheer size. The InGen Apatosaurus are many times lighter than the robust, longer, and taller Brontosaurus. Using the square cube law, the largest Brontosaurus could exceed 85 tons. That's even heavier than the Brachiosaurus from Jurassic Park. And unlike InGen stock, which were cared for in captivity and had very close to never faced a predator in years, these Brontosaurus would be growing up in the most predator-heavy environments imaginable, with—
See, these Brachiosauruses were in Nafara, heaven, paradise, whatever you want to call it. These guys had to go in hell, torture, prison, bomb time, whatever you want to call it.
without going extinct, either by fighting back or even the mere act of fleeing. The latter method, ironically, would end up being the most deadly. Once this herd is spooked into a stampede, a mini extinction event is bound to occur. If there's one animal that can teach how to kill an innumerable amount of animals in minutes, it's this one. The Natural History Companion book, World of Kong, a natural history—
Which I looked everywhere for this book. I cannot find it anywhere. I really want to buy one day.
History of Skull Island clarifies that not even a V-Rex would pick a fight with a Brontosaurus. Their stampedes could potentially span many miles, killing any unfortunate creatures that happen to be in the way, both the innocent and the instigators. Of spooking them, they end up killing would-be innocent, else killing any haters. Fortunately, the Indominus's fast running speeds would be enough to get it out of the way in time. And in the act of spooking them, they end up killing more Apatosaurus.
Sorry, got called.
And other creatures than she initially imagined. All this commotion, bellowing sounds of injured animals, and the smell of blood and guts splattered over the floor attracts what may be the Indominus's biggest nightmare. Vistatosaurus rex. Length 50 feet, height 20, weight at an estimated 20 tons. Weapons, massive jaws, bludgeoning skull, broad tail. Drawn to the smell of blood and often stealing kills from their own kin and other predators, it would be inevitable that an Indominus will find herself confronted by the largest predator on the island. And the most powerful theropod dinosaur to exist in this universe. Prime hunting ground like this would almost certainly already be claimed by a V-Rex. So, how would this play out at this point in time? Note that at the point of her death, the Indominus was not fully grown. Resurrected, she is now a little more than 40 feet.
Oh, pause. Okay, so
In length, still 10 feet shorter than a robust V-Rex. Given the V-Rex did descend from T-Rex, it is possible that the hybrid might try to communicate with this being that looks like her, but this wouldn't be successful. 65 million years is a lot of time for verbal language to change, and the V-Rex are extremely aggressive towards outsiders on their territory. Against a fully grown V-Rex, things don't really look that good. It's important to note here that even if the Indominus is agile in her own right, these V-Rexes are not far behind. In fact, they may be on equal footing. Coming from the massively agile T-Rex lineage, these animals' bone structure allows this creature to bend and turn in ways its
I like a crocodile skin. That's a cool reference.
ancestor couldn't. Not to mention its huge noggin with a bite that could snap off entire limbs. And if the Indominus ever comes across one of these three, the other two will also pull up on her. The best chance the Indominus has to win this confrontation, if at all, would be to rely mostly on her stealth abilities. But even then, killing one V-Rex quickly will be challenging. And if she fails, for the first time in her life, she'll be the one being challenging. And if she fails, for the first time in her
Run, bitch!
heat
run!
detection, ability to remove her own thermal signature, and blend into its environment using experience that she may be able to walk away from. If she survives long enough, she may come back for a rematch whenever she comes of age. If she were to thrive in the open lowlands of Skull Island, she would have to find an area claimed by a lesser predator, a smaller V-Rex. Here, things may look a bit more favorable, but there's another familiar scent lurking in the air. One that may shift the dynamics of this island and one day establish her as queen. So far, the Indominus has fared fairly well in the jungle and lowlands as long as she stayed out of trouble. Being in these two environments would also lead to confrontations against one of the smartest predators of the island, Venatosaurus. Now, there are two varieties of these here. One being the smaller variety, Venatosaurus impavidus, which are nocturnal and will likely just keep their distance from the Indom, and the more troublesome type, Venatosaurus saeviticus, the crafty bastards we saw in the 2005 film. These were around the size of a Utah raptor or Indoraptor, very intelligent and capable of cleverly navigating through any territory, and smart enough to trigger Brontosaurus stampedes to do the killing for them. Interesting dynamic interactions are seen between two intelligent animals. And in this case, if the Indominus ever runs into a group of these, two things may happen. One, a solid pack of Venatosaurus is no stranger to standing up to a single V-Rex, so a slightly smaller animal will be no different. While these are raptors, they are a different
Mods like God, the characters, because that's cool.
Species very far removed from anything Jurassic World cooked up. So, how would these communicate? There is an alternative. The natural history book mentions that this kind of raptor chiefly communicates with body language, and a perceptive Indominus will observe and learn to break a language barrier in a very short time. Venatosaurus are led by an alpha pair, and the easiest way to prevent a conflict against yet another predator is to convince them that she herself is a valuable ally, either by gifting kills or assisting the pack in a standoff against a V-Rex, slowly but surely proving herself invaluable and eventually taking control of the pack. At this point, it is imperative for the Indominus Rex to settle down, since for the entirety of the simulation so far, she'd been met with endless obstacles. Here, she has her best chance, and she'd best take it. Taking control of the pack by force would either cause them to disperse or gang up on her, similar to how she didn't kill Blue when assuming leadership of the squad. Yes, the Indominus can be prone to moments of mania and craziness, but she is a cognizant animal. She can act collected if she wants to. In turn, the Venatosaurus are smart enough to take advantage of a beneficial situation, the result being a brand new pack structure with the pack itself acting as a backup to the Indominus, now tilting the odds in confrontations against the other two monarch species in Skull Island. And that's with her not being fully grown yet. A pack like this has even shown up in the Kong lore before. In Joseph DeVito's canonical prequel universe to the original 1933 film, the raptor species called Death Runners were led by a gigantic raptor-like dinosaur called Gaw. Who looked similar to the Indominus in some ways. This force, unlike anything this island has ever seen, will now be strong enough to establish a territory, taking down a single V-Rex and now taking over its territory, repelling the others with strength in numbers. Indominus is now one step closer to not only surviving here, but taking over. One day, the Indominus takes a deep breath but picks up another familiar scent, one which brings back dark memories and triggers her thirst for blood. Indominus Rex absolutely hates humans. She wouldn't have gone out of her way to ambush and kill them at every opportunity she got if she didn't. So, upon discovering the wall, she would waste no time trying to get around and getting at the humans. Here, these guys aren't armed with rifles, 50s, or RPGs. Compared to Jurassic Park's asset containment units, these
Compared to Jurassic Park, this is a buffet, huh?
guys armed with sharp sticks and clubs wouldn't stand a chance. They do have the upper hand in one thing, though. Note that in this scenario, the Indominus really wouldn't be able to get into the village because, hilarious as this is to say, the wall in this primitive setting has better security than Jurassic World. Why?
You're outbeaten by people that only have sticks and clubs, okay? I'm not talking about the race, I'm just talking about what they have, okay? Okay? They're all humans, and all humans are smart. But you were beaten by basically modern cavemen. God, was that offensive? I'm sorry. That sounds offensive. Anyway, basically, yeah, that's that.
Why? Because they had the sense to have a moat around the wall with a sheer drop at the bottom. This may have just been clever placement of the village. Now, this wall could be breached by an especially motivated Kong with superb leaping abilities, something the Indom can't do, but the Raptors could have an easier time trying to somehow cross if motivated enough. But this wouldn't come across more than just harassing the village walls. To their perspective, the Indominus would be like nothing they had ever encountered before. She looks like the type of dinosaurs they are most scared of, but more intelligent, leads an army of raptor packs, and can seemingly disappear in plain sight, and clearly hates them just for existing.
Okay, I'm not trying to sound offensive here, but tribal people would probably think of her as some kind of mystical creature.
To them, the Indominus Rex is a demon. And what do scared people with faith do when they are confronted with a demon? They ask their god for help. King Kong, height 25 feet, weight approximately 20 tons. Abilities: dexterous hands and feet, climbing, powerful jaws, potential tool use, high pain tolerance. Despite being one of the smallest cinematic versions of the 8th wonder of the world, the 2005 King Kong still weighs more
That's bullshit, there's way smaller ones.
Than the Indominus due to mammals having higher body density than dinosaurs. In general, the ape is taller, heavier, and somewhat physically stronger, and has additional assets such as better vertical maneuverability and tool use. This entire time, the Indominus Rex has wandered, cautiously avoiding threats, survived, and prevailed. And in the process, becoming the wielder of the most deadly force on this island. Now that she commands a Venatosaurus army and is fully grown, her war waged with the natives of this island climaxed to the face-off that will change the fate of this island for some time to come. It has all led to this.
Well guys, here's a cool video. What if the Utah Raptor was in Jurassic World? Well, that's not what we're talking about. Human dinosaurs would be cool.
Today, the Indominus Rex will be resurrected from the dead and be
Well guys,
tasked with the most dangerous challenge yet.
the king and the queen will fight. Who is gonna survive? The king, the eighth wonder of the world, early embodiment of death to all dinosaurs everywhere. You decide. Will a queen live to see her title on Skull Island's the feared Finn on Skull Island the most? The demon of Skull Island? Will a king, the god of Skull Island, be the man who survives and kills this demon? Well, I don't know yet because the video hasn't came out, but I want you guys to give your opinion. Will Khan win or will Indominus Rex? I have to end this video now, but just remember, the king, queen, always win.